The Mad Woman Strikes Again. On my Substack, I have almost 200, yes, almost 200 new original poems composed since October, the last 9 months. And I have a thing for symbolic language, diving deep into the unconscious mind and its energies, pulling some deeper reality out from there. The unconscious mind has an opportunity to speak for itself within the poetic medium. And a lot of it is very emotional without being strictly confessional or tied to the self, because that stuff's bland, obviously. I always sit down to write a poem. Every day I sit down to write a poem, and I try to reach beyond the individual to touch upon a deeper reality. And so that's how I make the sausage. That's how the sausage gets made in terms of poems. I've done heavily metaphorical poems. I've done very literal, direct poems about, how I feel about certain things. But the main thing that pulls it all together is this theme, this underlying theme of light in the darkness, finding humanity in a dehumanized condition, contrasting the demons in the mind with the angels in the heart, perseverance, determination, devotion in a fallen world order. And some of it is political or offers social commentary. Like I have one called Invaders about the refugee crisis in Europe, because obviously the West are the real invaders in that fucking situation, and the war on quote-unquote terror. It's all hypocrisy. So let's pull that one up and read it right now. Why not? Why the fuck not? Invaders, when you cause your own crisis. Sunfire and steel transforming our souls, bared like teeth. Wisdom comes from war, and still you have no room to dream. In dark mystical caverns, distended by my thoughts, the fallen kingdom's people take refuge from what's lost. I have seen the cities crumble, and I have seen great towers fall. I have traced the monumental vagrancy back from the wall, living with barbed wire nightmares, going up in smoke. Sharp like bayonets, I will haunt you like a wailing ghost. Come in from the frost and see blood dripping off your hands, flooding to the north from the bombs glassing out the sand, filling up the graves from the judgments that they demand. Lifestyles defiled, nothing sacred in a stranger's land. And so I have certain ones like that, but to be honest, the majority, a large portion of my poems are love poems, sort of devotional pieces, that flow not from desire alone, but from my subconscious connection to other human beings. And that's how I compose my favorite poem, Togetherness. It comes from that deeper inner connection, that deeper inner reality. Because I believe, the deeper you dive into yourself, the more likely you are to find something beyond yourself that undergirds and produces your whole subjectivity. And so that capacity for depth, that capacity for meaning, that capacity for the expansion of consciousness is really what keeps me tied to poetry as an art form. So let's pull up Togetherness. Soft as steam, the way you breathe, so beautifully heavy. The tinderbox is lit, the matchstick on your feline lips melts me like a candlestick, dripping upon your eager neck. Your gaze a world I could get lost in. I follow you there, behind locked doors, every gentle footstep like a prayer for our safety. Alone together, twin crimson smiles, glistening alongside one another. Sweat and sweet breaths like starlit photographs enrapture us in quiet peace. I'll keep the pace if you keep the time, but clocks don't deserve to be watched. They'll never know you're here with me, or how 1 and 1 makes 3, upon a velvet sheet of pleasured cream and whips. The beauty of the we, bathed in soft warm light, drawing out delight all throughout the night of life itself. And so that was Togetherness, my favorite poem I've written so far. And a lot of them are like that. They're kind of love poems, they're kind of sensual. I found that in order to compose that one, I needed to connect to that deeper unconscious connection just in order to establish a certain softness of voice within the poem as like a literary device, a softness of voice. So it doesn't read like somebody screaming at you, but it's like a gentle whisper over your right shoulder. Then I have some nature poems. There's less than 10 of those, but I have a couple of nature poems like Veins of the Atmosphere, for example. Could read that one. The stars, white and milky, glistening like dew upon her tender flesh, her, the mother of the world. I can look ever higher into the zenith of the sky, interlocking silver rings around the finger of the night. And so I think that's straight fire, but yeah, those are just a few of my poems that I've composed in the last 9 months. There's back catalog ones online. This is all my Substack account. There's also back catalog poems that were composed within the last 8 years or so. Because I really started writing poetry like 7 years ago in 2018. And I just got back into it last October. And I really do think that it's improved because I do this every day. I'm a serious writer. I write every single day of my life. So let's read a newer one that's about that kind of light in the darkness theme. It's called Persisting. Rats have chewed up my brain, and dogs have dragged out my name. Yet today I open my eyes anyway. The sunrise brings a choice every single morning. To rise and face the day, or to become someone's mourning. To let our hearts unfurl, or to sink down and unravel. To open up to wholeness, or to hide beneath the gravel. To shrink away from life's great mysteries is to let the darkness win. To find a way to let the light in is to finally truly live. So I think that encompasses that light in the darkness theme quite well. I'm really, interested in that kind of like subconscious symbolic communication. I think by my nature I'm kind of a symbolic communicator. Like everything I say and do and write has some kind of deeper meaning behind it that's not merely about, how I feel or some object in physical reality, but is about like a certain condition of humanity. And like I said earlier, that kind of like contrast thing between the darkness in the mind and the light within the heart. And, bringing out that deeper reality, bringing out those subconscious connections that really make us human. And, I have essays on my Substack. I have almost every essay I wrote for college on my Substack as well. And I have a story called The Bureaucrats, which is also about that kind of dark versus light contrasting. But really, I'm here to talk about poetry today. So, putting myself out there. So I'm one of those 50,000 OGs that will change the world with my writing. So, thanks for watching. You can subscribe to my Substack and read more poems like the ones I read off for you by clicking the link down below in the description. If you want to support me, that would mean a lot. It would mean the world to me. And either way, I'm going to keep writing poems every day. So, thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.